Welcome to the Masterclass on podcasting. So today we're going to be drawing on inspiration from both divine wisdom and practical expertise. And so we're going to explore 5 essential pillars that form the foundation of a successful podcast ministry. Now, if you consider this your ministry, your calling, your mission, or what have you, then this is for you. And so this masterclass will equip you with the knowledge and tools to equip you with a purpose-driven podcast that resonates with your audience and amplifies your God-given message. And so we're going to explore each pillar in detail, combining spiritual principles with biblical and practical podcasting strategies as well. So by way of introduction, my name is Aldreama Harper, and I assist female entrepreneurs to navigate the complexities and overwhelm of launching, maintaining, and growing a podcast by helping them to streamline their digital operations, implement efficient workflows, and leveraging tools to enhance productivity and scalability for their online businesses. And so what you can expect from this masterclass is you will acquire skills that are transferable and applicable to various aspects of your business way beyond podcasting. You'll get actionable insights and practical tools that you can apply immediately to launch and grow a podcast. You'll also get the steps that are foundational building blocks to prepare you for a more successful podcast launch. Also, I do use scripture and I apply biblical principles. It is a foundation for my business and my life. And so throughout my training, I share verses of scripture that apply to the topics and concepts that I'll be sharing with you. Now, if that offends you, this may not be the training for you. And lastly, for those who want a step-by-step, hands-on guided training to accelerate the process, I invite you to take a look at a link that will be provided to my podcast launch accelerator. It's a 3-day boot camp and a unique opportunity that's designed to help you fast track your podcasting launch. The next one is coming up shortly. These are, for now, they're actually monthly. And so you definitely want to take a look at that. All of the information will be provided when you click on the link in the show notes. So, all right. So welcome to this master class. So let's go ahead and jump right in. But what I want to do is I want to start with some stats. Okay. So global podcast market value is expected to reach $30.3 billion by the end of 2024. Now we're in 2025, and I don't have a new statistic on that other than it is projected to grow to $131.13 billion by 2030. That is the projected growth. 47% of U.S. population age 12 and older listen to podcasts monthly. The average listener consumes 7 to 8 podcasts weekly, and 80% of listeners complete the entire episode. And then 61% of listeners purchase products mentioned by the host. Now, that speaks to the power and the popularity of podcasts. The reason that podcasts have become so popular is because people can learn, be entertained, and even escape, all while doing other things. This is a multitasker's dream. And this is like one of the reasons why podcasting is so impactful, and that is convenience. It's like people can conveniently listen to podcasts while driving, while walking the dog, while cooking, while doing other things. But it's not just about the convenience, it's also about connection. Because when someone listens to a podcast, they're letting you into their world. They're hearing your voice, they're hearing your stories, your insights, often for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour or more. And so there's something incredibly personal and powerful at the same time about all of that. Your voice becomes a trusted voice in their ear. That's very powerful. And let's not forget about credibility, because when you host a podcast, you're positioning yourself as an authority in your niche. It's like saying, I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to provide value and to help you succeed. And this is incredibly powerful for building trust. So let's just dive into those 5 pillars. Okay. Pillar number 1, clarifying your niche. Clarifying your niche. This is your foundation. This also applies to business and other types of launches. You want to make sure that you clarify your niche. And as it relates to podcasting, there are over 4.7 million podcasts globally, but only 40% remain active. Why is that? Well, I believe it's because of some of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you today, and that's building a foundation with these 5 pillars. It's certainly one of the reasons why my podcast, my first podcast, only has 12 episodes. The things that I'm sharing with you now. And the thing about a niche is that it's not just a topic. I want you to really wrap your head around what your niche is. It's really your ministry, like your calling, like your message. It's not just a topic. And so you want to ask yourself, what unique message or perspective has God given you? What audience needs your message the most? What problems can you solve through your content? What burning questions keep your ideal listener awake at night? Without a clear niche, your podcast is going to get lost in the noise. It's going to get lost in all the other millions of podcasts that's out there. So you want to make sure that you define your purpose, your audience, and the transformation that you offer. By the way, there is a difference between your audience and your niche. Your niche is about the content. Your audience is about who's listening. And so you want to make sure that you are crafting and clarifying your niche, which is a part of your vision for your podcast. Think of Proverbs 29, verse 18. It says, where there is no vision, the people perish. So it's more than just a topic. So a couple of things you want to keep in mind is that this should align with your expertise, your passion, and the transformation you aim to create in your listeners' lives. This is very important and worth pondering. When I'm working with my clients, this is the foundation, and I explain to them look, we need to take time to pray and reflect on your podcast. We can't just jump up and throw a podcast together and think that just because you do that, if you build it, they will come. Or if you build it, they will listen. It doesn't work that way. It requires thought and contemplation. Secondly, it goes beyond demographics. It's about recognizing the needs of your audience. Your content should address their challenges, their questions, and their aspirations. So it's up to you to find out what that is so that you can be clear on your podcast niche. So that's pillar number 1, clarifying your niche. Pillar number 2, crafting compelling content. So content is king. Listen, as a content creator, which that's what podcasting is, you have to have good content. You have to do what's necessary to clear and beyond the noise that's out there. And you do that by thinking about what stories, what insight, what expertise that you can share that will captivate your audience. Simple stories, as simple as stories. I have a client that is so good at storytelling. And so when you think about Jesus, when Jesus's parables, when he shared stories, which are, parables are just simple stories that conveyed profound truths. But he was intentional about his teaching. Why is that? Because there were people who were open to receiving what he had to say, and there are those that are resistant. And so parables were essentially used for separating those who were truly seeking understanding from those who were not. And so your content should educate, entertain, and empower. Because studies show that 65% of podcast listeners tune in for the educational value. And so, with that in mind, just as Jesus taught through parables, your content and your stories should engage your audience, those who want to listen. Engage your audience with stories, provide actionable value, and stay consistent with your message. Because podcasts with consistent themes, people will retain 80% more listeners. Let me say that this way, the correct way. Studies show that podcasts will, with consistent themes, retain 80% more listeners. Okay? And so keep in mind that your content is not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Just like when Jesus used the parables to convey profound truths. It was not for everyone. Just like the parables, your content strategy should combine storytelling with purposeful teaching. Now, think about it. I want you to think about this framework. Consider these elements. Create a content framework that balances education, inspiration, and practical application. Because research shows, I love to share these statistics, okay? Research shows that 65% of podcast listeners do seek educational value. So ensure that your content delivers meaningful insights. Now, I was just talking about one of my clients, and so we had our session on yesterday. And so her audience are women, and she wants to reach an audience of those who are looking for in health and wellness. And what she's sharing is her health journey. So she's in the health and wellness niche, but her audience, she specializes more in sharing her story about her journey of losing almost 100 pounds and how she has done that. And so she when we were on the call, she had accomplished a huge milestone in her journey. But she didn't feel like it was worthy of an episode. She said, well, when she shared it with me, she said, yeah, I've reached this particular milestone, and um I've gotten my levels. I'm no longer a diabetic. And I'm like, and you did not share that with your audience? Because here's the thing, her audience, as she's sharing her journey, her weight loss journey and her health journey, and she's so good at storytelling. Like, she paints these very vivid pictures of each part of her journey and keeps you leaned in. And so when you skip like a huge milestone and you don't share it, like, they want to know, right? And so this was a huge milestone for her. And you want to share that because your audience is on a journey with you. So why wouldn't they deserve or want to know this? And so we talked about that. And so now she is definitely going to include that in a specific episode. And I shared a framework with her, which included, the story, and then 3 lessons that you want them to walk away with, and then a call to action. And because she's so good at doing that, she's going to come up with everything that it takes to create a really engaging episode. So the reason that I say all that is because storytelling is so very important in this process. And it's important because it leads back to crafting compelling content for your listeners. Okay, you want to captivate your listeners. And so let's move on to pillar 3. So pillar 3 is about cultivating a loyal audience, building a community around your podcast. This is essential because you want to think of it as a tribe or your support system. And when you think of that around your podcast, you want to create a space where listeners feel connected. And so whether you're engaging with them on social media or what have you, you want to respond to their comments when you share something in a post. But these type of things really build genuine relationships. And this is how you cultivate an audience. When you think of, for example, Proverbs 27, verse 17, it says, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. And so building community is biblical. And so consider these things when you are building your community. I love statistics. So 80% of podcast listeners complete the entire episode. Now, this is when you've done some of the things that we're talking about. Okay, I'm helping you to create a roadmap here. So 80% of podcast listeners complete entire episodes. 61% of listeners purchase products mentioned by their favorite hosts. Now, there you go, right? But even more so, you want to create connection. And you do that by engaging with them on social media, even responding to feedback. If you notice certain types of posts and on social media and responding just creates community. People will continue to engage, right? And so building a loyal audience requires intentional community cultivation. And you can also do that by creating either a Facebook group or some group on another platform or what have you. And so, but all of this is going to be required because, again, building community is biblical. And you want to focus on creating meaningful engagement opportunities through not only social media and not only posting and things like that, but email newsletters, prayer communities, and again, communities on off social media as well, like I just said, right? So virtual communities, maybe you have a co-working community, what have you. And so just remember that this is what builds trust. Okay. Statistics show that 61% of listeners are likely to support the hosts that they trust. And so it's important to build community, and you do that by cultivating a loyal audience. All right. So that was number 3. Pillar number 4. Now it's time to create your podcast studio / haven. Now, I don't want you to be intimidated by the word studio because it really can be quite simple to create your podcast studio / haven. This can be as simple as a quiet corner in your home with a decent microphone and software. The key is to create a space where you can focus and deliver your message clearly. And you can do that without breaking the bank. Okay, a small investment in first of all, a quality equipment can make a big difference in the sound of your podcast. And so your recording environment and your technical setup are crucial for professional delivery. But again, you don't have to break the bank, but invest in equipment that serves your purpose. And you can start with 3 essentials. So number 1, a good sounding microphone. I just purchased a microphone less than $30. Okay. And so it creates a professional sounding audio. It's crisp and clear. So you do not have to break the bank. Good headphones. Now, this is not absolutely necessary. I prefer headphones or, a headset or earbuds so that I can actually hear what others hear. And then reliable software. I use and recommend to my clients Riverside because you can do everything you need to do inside of that platform. You can edit, you can have meetings, and that's just 2 out of probably 50 or 100 things that you can do with this particular software. So a good microphone, $30. Headphones or earbuds, you can find some for $10, $15. And reliable recording software. So I had gotten a question. Someone asked me, how much does it cost to get started? Well, let's just say you buy a microphone for $30, headphones, if you want to, $10 or $15. Well, that's $45. And software, for example, Riverside software only costs $30 a month. Okay. So it doesn't cost a whole lot. And you probably already have a computer, right? So there you have it. Create a dedicated recording space that minimizes the distractions and optimizes sound quality. There are some additional things you can do, like foam panels. You can put those on your wall. I have foam panels on my wall. because it absorbs the sound. You can use carpet or rugs so that if you have wooden floors or laminate floors, it's going to absorb the sound. So you can put like large pieces of carpet or rugs on the floor to help with that. So create a dedicated recording space that minimizes distractions and optimizes sound quality. And so doing things decently and in order. That's what the scripture says. Let all things be done decently and in order. That is Corinthians 14, verse 40. So finally, let's move to the last pillar, and that is commence with your podcast. That's where you're going to start the process of marketing, creating a buzz, letting people know about your podcast. This is where the rubber meets the road, okay? And so you want to launch, especially with this roadmap I just shared with you, you will be able to launch with confidence because now you have a solid foundation. Because even the small steps, the smallest steps, is forward progress. Don't overthink it. I have clients that overthink the entire thing. And it really is laying this type of foundation is important, but you don't have to overthink it because you can't get started without it being perfect because that it will never be. But here's the thing. God does not require perfection. He requires excellence. And so when you can walk away and say, hey, I believe that I am doing this in excellence to the best of my ability and trust God in the process, then you can trust Him with the results. Right? So, most podcasts never make it past episode number 7. Now, I mentioned before that I have launched 3 podcasts. The first podcast, which was back in 2013, there are only 12 episodes. So I did make it past the 7 episodes. But because I didn't have this type of roadmap, then that is why, I never made it past, the 12th episode. Another statistic shows that successful launches typically have 3 to 5 episodes already ready. This is one thing that I require of my clients, to have 3 to 5 episodes already ready when they launch, so that when people come, they can binge listen or binge watch, if you're doing video podcasts, your episodes. 48% of podcast listeners discover shows through word of mouth. Word of mouth is very powerful. So you can incorporate or recruit, rather, 3, 4, maybe 5 of your friends to just share your episodes. That's it. Share your episodes with other people. And that's word of mouth. Now, there are some specific things that I do teach my clients, but you can start there. But it's all about preparing well and in excellence. And again, just trust God with the results. So here is your roadmap. Let me just recap the roadmap. Clarify your podcast niche, craft compelling content, cultivate a loyal audience, create your podcast haven/studio, and then commence with your podcast. And so there you have it. You have a roadmap. You can get started right away. So if you are looking for hands-on guidance, then consider registering for my next 3-day boot camp, where I will provide you with hands-on training every step of the way. And so when you go to that link, you will see there's courses already ready for you to engage in. And then from there, we have our 3-day boot camp that will help you to launch your podcast in 3 days. Okay. So it's coming up as of, let's see, it's the third week. No, sorry. The last week of every month. That's what it is. The last week of every month, the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The last week of every month. And so I invite you to join me on that boot camp, at that boot camp. And so you will get to launch your podcast in just a few days. Go through the course, launch your podcast in a few days. And so if that is something that is of interest to you, then I invite you to click on the link that's provided in the show notes. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Also remember to subscribe to the podcast. All those links will be in the show notes. If you want more topics, check out the podcast episode where I talk about this and more. It's on business, organizing, podcasting, and motivation. All right, that's all we have for now. I hope you enjoyed this masterclass. I hope to see you in the next one. Have an amazing day.